Hi and welcome back to Donington Park, the third event of the 2020 GT Cup Championship season. Great weather that we're having today. Unlike our previous outing at Silverstone, we've had one race already so far this weekend, the first of four that we are live streaming for you over the course of the 2 days, and that was the 25-minute single driver race. We're about to head into the first of our 50-minute, where appropriate, two driver races, and I say where appropriate because some drivers are sole drivers. They still have to make a pit stop during the race, and we'll talk a little bit more about the logistics of the stops that we're going to see happen today and be executed today as we go on. But a fascinating opening race to the weekend, which saw overall victory going to Richard Neary in the Mercedes. Richard, an invitation runner this weekend, running in GT3, and it was Matt Manderson who took second in his Aston Martin, and third position going to GT Cup Championship regular John Seal. So he was the first of the regulars home in his Lamborghini Huracan, and 4 wins so far for John this season. Had a non-classified in the first race of the year, but was very successful at Silverstone, and looking to maybe add some wins to that over the course of the remainder of today and also into tomorrow. But he has got stiff competition, as we said, from the Aston Martin and the Mercedes, who out-qualified him, but who are not scoring championship points. So he won't be too worried at the moment about how that goes forward. Other highlights for us from race one. There, incidentally, in the background is the black and green ABBA Commercials car of the race one winner, and alongside the Motus 1 Ginetta G55, number 11 car of Dave Scaramanga, shared with pro driver Will Powell. It is the non-pro drivers in each of the pairings that will start this race. The pro drivers have to finish the 50-minute race, so they're the ones that will get in at approximately the halfway point of the race. We're just zooming back now and having a look from Tom Barrow in the BMW 150, running with Saxon Motorsport, the team based in Herefordshire. Great to have them back as an invitation entry into the championship as well. There is the BMW, superbly prepared car. In fact, all of the cars that we're seeing down the pit lane, being the Prestige Championship here this weekend, occupying the pit lane. Nice to have some spectators back as well this weekend at Donington, but not allowed in the paddock due to social distancing. So everything being kept very sensible, very well managed here by Jonathan Palmer and the MSV team here at Donington Park. Championship leader outright, well, that's in Group B, GTB, and held by the driver pairing of Ben Claydon and Sam Randon in the Team Hard Racing Porsche 997 GT3 Generation 1 Cup car. And it's a slender, or it was a slender 5-point lead coming into this event over Team Hard Racing teammates Josh Jackson and Simon Orange, who run in GTA. GTA, the category for the one-make series cars, effectively, giving them an outlet to come in. It's the pit lane, you can see, opens now, and the car's getting ready to come onto track for our 50-minute race. Third in the championship, leading the C Group, GTC, John Dillon, who has been partnered by Aaron Scott, Aaron Scott's Scott Sport team, running his Ferrari 488 Challenge car. And this weekend sees John Dillon in the 61 being partnered for the first time this year by Phil Quaife in the Ferrari. So great to welcome Phil to the grid, and they're starting back on row 4 for this one. The other championship leaders in terms of the groups, GTH led by the defending champions in GT Cup, that's Steve Ruston and John Whitehouse. They took a class win in the opening race of the year, and they're in the McLaren 570 GT4. Mentioned John Seal earlier on, he leads the GT3 category, and we've got a debut for the season for Richard Chamberlain. Absolutely delighted to see Richard Chamberlain, his monster Porsche 935, which is going to start from the back of the grid. They've been rebuilding the car and put a new engine in, and it's I think a little bit of a shakedown for him, and they'll be off the back as we look at Richard Neary going through shot, and the Mercedes looking to pick up another win. It has got form before with us in the GT Cup Championship, having won races here last year, 2 overall wins here at Donington Park last year in the sprint race and the first 2 driver race of the weekend, and picking up another one in the second one. A formidable driver pairing, I've got to say, Richard and his son Sam. Going through shot is the Warren Gilbert, Jensen Lunn, Marcus Mantis. We've only got one Mantis in this one because, despite getting to the end of race number 1, Charlotte Gilbert heard some knocking and some unsavoury noises from the engine of her Mantis, and that requires an engine change, which we think is going to happen overnight. The guys are working on it at the moment, and Charlotte should be out again tomorrow, which we hope. Also, news from race number 1 to tell you that Craig Wilkins didn't get to start. He didn't attempt to qualify. He had an engine problem with his Ginetta G55. James Simons in the Lotus Evora had a gear sensor issue, and he hasn't had any meaningful track time thus far, but he's hoping to get out on the back of the grid for this one, so we'll hopefully see him and Richard Chamberlain making some progress through from the back of the grid. Other news for you, it was we saw Russ Lindsay and Patrick Collins move up to 3rd position by my maths in the GTA group, and James Guess moved up to 2nd in GTH, but has had a gearbox failure and has had to withdraw from this race, and we think from the meeting. So James Guess, having got into 2nd position in the group, in his group, will now miss the meeting as we look at the cars on the grid. Super sight, as you can tell, with John Seal just to the left of shot. Coming through into grid position is Richard Neary, his son Sam doing the qualifying. I think both of their times in the practice session, it was Richard did the non-competitive, as we would call it, practice session first thing this morning, and that led in directly to the qualifying session, which Sam went in on fresh tyres and popped in a lap some 2 seconds quicker than anyone else. So Richard very quick in race number 1 and got the fastest up in race number 1, thus securing pole for this one. So effectively what you're seeing here is the grid based on the sprint race fastest laps by each driver, and the sprint race won't see the official pro drivers in the car. So it's very much set by, if you want to call them the gentleman drivers or the first drivers in the cars. We have got some very professional drivers in the mix and racing as shared drivers, but by and large the less experienced drivers setting the grid times here. But such is the wonder of Buick Motorsports GT Cup Championship, that we have very good drivers at top level, even those that you might call amateurs. It's probably the wrong terminology for those. Seamus Jennings, one of the invitations entries in his white Porsche there on the grid, sharing with Greg Caton in this race, and he'll be looking to move through the order. Clerk of the course for the meeting is Tony Watts. He's already had a little bit of work. There was a disqualification from race number 1 today. The winner of Class A, Callum Jenkins, I think it was a driving issue, just waiting for confirmation of that. It would have been his 3rd Group A win of the year, but that taken away, and instead we have a 1st Group A win of the year going to Patrick Collins, sharing with Russell Lindsay, and those two getting into 3rd place by my maths into GTA, as I think I mentioned at the start of our feed, as they head off onto the green flag lap here at Donington Park. We're on the Grand Prix circuit, which is a real treat for us this weekend, as opposed to the National. It's been a good while since I've called a race on GP. I think the last time was maybe Supercarts. And there is the championship leader. Ben Claydon is the starter in this one. Very much a newcomer to car racing is Ben Claydon, with Team Harder, who are doing such a super job in the GT Cup Championship this year, with P1 and P2 overall, as well as leading GTB and GTA. Tim Hard, of course, very, very active and extremely visible, high visibility throughout the motorsport world, including junior Formula E, even truck racing, with Simon Cole, who races in the British Truck Racing Championship. So a very diverse operation and lots of support. In the background, we can see we've got cars starting from pit lane, which is not a good sign. We've got Russell Lindsay, Patrick Collins there. Also in the background, the 38 car is the Aston Martin driven by Matt Topham. It was very quick in race number 1, coming through from the back of the grid into, I think, 13th position, 2nd place in class, with a late run to get up onto the podium in GT8, so it was a good drive from Matt Topham, but it looks like they've had some issues. I'm afraid I didn't get a chance to ask them because I didn't think they had any after race number 1, but sadly that does seem to be the way things have panned out. So front row of the grid, Richard Neary starting alongside Matt Manderson in the Aston. Row 2, John Seal in the Lamborghini and Seamus Jennings in his Porsche. Jim Geddy starts in the Ferrari on row 3, then James Webb in the Lamborghini Huracan. Row 4, John Dillon in the Ferrari 488, Tom Barrow in the BMW. Row 5, Jensen Lunn starting the Marcus Mantis, Steve Ruston starting the McLaren S70. Row 6, Ben Claydon in the Porsche we've already seen and spoken about. Callum Jenkins next up. Row 7, Chris Murphy in his Aston Martin. It's an all Aston row 7, although maybe not because Matt Topham is in the pit lane as we saw. Row 8, Ron Johnson in the Speedworks Toyota, and then Russ Lindsay in the Ginetta, the Group A winner from race number 1, and we are set for 50 minutes of GT Cup action. It's a superb sight. Look at the superb sight that these cars make as they head down. Progress at the back and watching Richard Chamberlain in the orange Porsche 935 already making progress. He's got a lot of work to do through the Class A, Group A cars as we go through, but it's the Aston Martin that leads, and it's Matt Manderson who made a very good start indeed. He was notably quick in clear traffic, got a little bit hampered by the by the Group B runners. As Richard Chamberlain starts to make progress, you can see he's already cleared Ron Johnson in the Toyota. So Richard, I know, is going to enjoy this. That car started life in 1972 and so much love and work has gone into it, and literally Richard Chamberlain has won literally hundreds of race wins in that car over the years, and he's won here many times before as well. May well grab another one, perhaps fittingly in front of the championship leader Ben Claydon there in the very distinctive Team Hard livery. Richard Chamberlain looks down the inside line, picks off another car, starting to close in on Warren Gilbert in the Top Cats Racing Marcos Mantis. Brand new turbo fitted on this car. They had to go back to Leeds this morning, so it's a good few hours drive plus the work that you need to add on to that for the 935. It's the sole GTO representative, but fantastic to see that car in the mix as Matt Manderson goes across the line, and Richard Neary coming under pressure from Seamus Jennings. This is the battle for second position, both of them in GT3, and Seamus Jennings starting 4th on the grid, so has had a decent enough start for sure. John Seal will be, I think, a little bit further behind them in the green Lamborghini Huracan. Got actually turned around in the first race when coming through a little bit of traffic, and had a chat with him about it between races, and he was unperturbed about it, part and parcel of racing. And although we saw him passing most of the traffic in race number 1 on the straight, he did say to me before race 1 that he very often came across slower cars on corners, and that was one occasion when he did. John Dillon starting the 61 Ferrari, and just trying at the moment to close down on James Webb, who is in the blue Lamborghini Huracan. There it is. I think some work done on that between races as well. James Webb, the leader in GTC at the moment. Jim Geddy running in 2nd place, and then it is in GTC John Dillon running in 3rd place. We'll see what John Dillon can do. Goes in on James Webb. James, along with Tom Webb, GTC champions in 2019 for Team Webb. The Lamborghini Huracan, great to see it back in GT Cup action. Ahead of them is Jim Geddy. He'll be handing over to his son Glyn. The pit stop window opens. You're not allowed to do your pit stop and driver change before 24 minutes on the clock, and not after 34 minutes 59.99 seconds. So it's quite a tight window, and in addition to the time that may be taken, there is a minimum pit stop time, which is 60 seconds. They've got a pass-through time as well, and then success seconds, difficult to say if you haven't got your teeth in, which are added on, I guess, as like an equivalent to what you might see in British touring cars as ballast, but you have success second penalty in the pit stops as well. So if you've done well in the preceding races, you get extra seconds added onto your pit stop, which helps balance things out in these races. It's a really good innovation and good use of the regulations by Butte Motorsport for the GT Cup Championship. So we just watched the 34 car. Callum Jenkins is at the controls of the 34 Ginetta at the moment and starting to put pressure on Russell Lindsay, the ex-Mazda driver, who runs a little bit wide, and that means that Callum Jenkins will come through. He'll be gutted to have lost that class win in the earlier race today. He comes along Starkey Straight. He's got to chase down the 67 car, which is started by Simon Orange, shared with another former Mazda MX-5 racer, Josh Jackson, in the Ginetta, as the Lamborghini Huracan of Jim Geddy goes through once again in 5th position. It's Matt Manderson who still leads here at Donington Park, but we're focused on 4th and 5th position as James Webb, who was 6 on the grid for this one, goes through. It was 21st and 3rd in class in the first race today, having had problems around about mid-order, and John Dillon trying to close in. So these three drivers all in the same class, but the top 2 invitational runners, so won't score championship points. So John Dillon has to get the car home to finish and bag the 15 points for one starter in class. It's 18 points for a win if there are 2 starters in class. Any more than 3 starters, it's 25 points. So the better supported classes pick up more points for race wins, which is again a good sensible. As James Webb starts to put the pressure on Jim Geddy, he's all over the back of him. He's going to be mindful of John Dillon. John, of course, has got championship points to think about, but not with anybody else in the race in terms of his class. Those 3 very close together at the moment. Huracan 488 double Lamborghini. Here comes, already into a little bit of traffic, comes Richard Neary. Richard got away from pole position in race number 1, pulled away, had the fastest lap in the early stages. Matt Manderson managed to grab the fastest lap around about lap 3 of the first race of the weekend, and then Richard Neary managed to pop in a quick lap, and the drivers never really own up to anything, do they? But Richard did tell me that he I think realised what the scenario was and had to get pole position fairly sharpish, as we watch Alex Stevenson coming under pressure from Callum Jenkins. Alex Stevenson, newcomer this year, and racing with James Kellett, the former Ginetta Challenge champion this weekend. James he's had a long day, as James, having a natter with him in the pit lane garages this morning, and had a go, I think, in the practice session at the start of the day, and said, when are you next out in the car? And he said, well, not until about 5 o'clock, 5:15. So a long day, but part of his brief is to manage and to coach his driving teammate Alex Stevenson in the number 9 car. Here is the lone Marcos Mantis, number 3, running in GTB, and then the number 1 car, first in class at the moment in GTH. Steve Ruston doing a grand job in the last year's championship winning car. Smart car it is as well. Now you can see James Webb getting the attentions of John Dillon here. So Dillon is piling the pressure on. This is freeing up Jim Geddy to start to build a little bit of a lead in GTC. Now you can see that Geddy, as they come down through the crane of curves and into the old hairpin, he's opening up the gap at the moment. Have to start thinking about in around about 10 minutes time about the pit stop window and who's going to get what penalty. Remember, it's the successful drivers from previous rounds who are a little bit squirrely there for Webb, but manages to stay ahead of the Ferrari, which continues to give chase here at the moment. So John Dillon still working hard, and we're handing over to Phil Quaife. There is the number 32 Toyota, which we'll see handed over to British Touring Car Championship star Tom Ingram a little bit later on. And Ron Johnson having a good run. And there in the 911 numbered car, David Franklin in the Porsche 997. He is having his first two-driver race, believe it or not, the first time he shared the car with anybody. And it's Will Tregurtha, who we were hoping to see out in action with Graham Tilley this weekend, but Graham's Nismo had gearbox problems last time out, you might recall, and the replacement gearbox also wasn't behaving itself either, so Will Tregurtha gets a chance to pair up with David Franklin, and Franklin for the first time. David spoke to him this morning. He said, I'm a generous person, but I don't like sharing, but he is sharing this weekend, which is absolutely brilliant. And super to see from him as Dave Scaramanga comes under a bit of pressure here from Callum Jenkins. So Dave Scaramanga in the number 11 car was 6 in GTH in the first race, goes down, makes the pass on the GTB car of David Franklin, goes through very neatly indeed. Seen Dave race several times. I think the last time I called a race with him was down at Pembrey in the Welsh Sports and Slew Car Championship, and that might seem to him that was a little while ago. Coming up though is Callum Jenkins. So Jenkins looks inside, gets a decent enough run out of the hairpin. I nearly said out of the chicane, forgetting momentarily we're on the GP circuit today. As it's a good battle here. There's John Seal coming under pressure, or actually having passed now Seamus Jennings. So John Seal up into third place, lights on, you can see, from the Lamborghini Huracan, and up onto overall podium position again, as he was in race number 1. He's going to be handing over to Marcus Clutton in the second part. Marcus, very busy racer, he's already said in coverage today in the Radical Challenge, and has taken a win in that as we watch Simon Orange racing with Matt Manderson. So the white Aston Martin is the race leader, but coming up now and starting to pile the pressure on is the Mercedes. Richard Neary is getting wound up, he's getting into rhythm, looks one way, jinks to the outside line as they come up to the first part of the double apex at Coppice, and this is very much the Mercedes of Richard Neary meaning business as they come along the straight here. Starkey Straight again, looks out, goes tight and around onto the Donington loop, heading down in towards the Melbourne hairpin. This is the battle for the overall lead. So Matt Manderson slightly defensive, not overly so though, as he came down into the Melbourne hairpin, and then great shot here. You get a real feel for the gradient that is there. Manderson flashes his lights at the traffic in front of him and makes it safely past the 17 car Russ Lindsay and Patrick Collins machine. Keeps well out of the way. Let's see whether Richard Neary is going to be able to hand over a lead to his son when we get into the pit stops. Down to Redgate once again they go. Similar pattern to race number 1. It closed up round about mid-order in race number 1. Oh, and that Richard Neary has to just take a slightly tighter line than he wanted, kicks up a bit of dirt, loses momentum. The GTA car's not perhaps falling as well for Richard there, and you can see Manderson has that real sense of urgency, flashing his lights as he goes through and past David Franklin. Slightly easier that time for Richard Neary going through. This is fascinating stuff. You can see John Seal in the green Lamborghini just at the back of shot when we're following the two leaders. So the white Aston, centre shot at the moment, is the race leader. The green and black, metallic green and black, very smart looking car. Richard did say to me earlier, it doesn't particularly bear close scrutiny because it has got a few battle scars from other races this year, but it still looks immaculate to me, and he said he'll straighten it all out at the end of the year. So the 26 car, the Aston Martin still out front. It'll be Mike Brown in the driving seat for the second half of the race for the Ultimate Speed Aston Martin GT3. Whether he'll get the longer stint or not remains to be seen, but Neary again is closing up. They're about to pass Callum Jenkins, who moves to the outside line. Great driving from Callum, and the lead pair are through. Similar pattern to race number 1. John Seal here, who's coming towards us now in the Lamborghini Huracan, did say that he could see the race leaders at the end of the pit straight when he was going through. Seamus Jennings next in his Porsche. Seamus having decent enough race in his 911 GT3R, 4th position for him at the moment. Jim Geddy still leading GTC from John Dillon and James Webb, and then Richard Chamberlain from the back of the grid. What an exciting race we've seen from Richard Chamberlain. Superb progress again. He's up into 8th position right from the back, which is super to see. Glad to see James Simons out in the Evora as well. He's got up to 21st place, so the Evora is getting some mileage under its belt as well after those gearbox sensor issues in, well, not in race 1 because he wasn't in race 1, but earlier on in the meetings we watched David Franklin coming towards us once again, followed by Alex Stevenson and then Russ Lindsay. Stevenson at the moment in the black Ginetta, 2nd place in GTA, which is headed by, and contact between the first 2 cars. Major drama at the hairpin. Richard Neary goes through. Now are we going to see a change for 2nd position? But contact at the hairpin and Richard Neary goes into the lead. Matt Manderson relegated to 2nd in the Aston Martin. So it's Mercedes, Aston Martin, Lamborghini Huracan in 3rd, Porsche in 4th place before the 2nd of the Lamborghinis coming through shot now. Here is the 55 car of John Seal, 3rd position and closer. He felt he had the pace over Matt Manderson in race number 1 and goes through and takes 2nd position. So great move there, and that really has unsettled Matt, hasn't it, in the Aston, very sadly. But the question is how much of a lead. It was 2.3 seconds Richard Neary over Matt Manderson at the end of that lap. They go past Ron Johnson. Manderson may well regroup before he hands over to Mike Brown a little bit later on. Going through Schwantz curve now, and then of course to McLean's up towards Coppice. Climbing up towards Coppice now is the number 8 of the new leader, who's also got the best lap of the race so far. So Richard Neary, 129.524. Nearest to him time-wise is understandably the Aston Martin, 129.793, and we still have 33 minutes on the clock, so plenty of race to unfold, plus the driver changes and mandatory pit stops as the race leader now is about to have a go at Ben Claydon. He's running 3rd position in GTB at the moment. 2nd in GTB is the Marcus Mantis of Warren Gilbert, who'll hand over to Jensen Lund, and the GTB leader is Tom Barrow in the BMW, but Tom not scoring championship points as an invitational runner. Outright championship leader pass. That's the beauty again of GT Cup, is that you can win the championship from different classes. Last year GTH, Steve Ruston and John Whitehouse. GTH again in 2018, but GTO the year before, the McLaren MP4 of Graham Davidson taking the title. John Dillon working his way through the traffic. Dillon is in 6th place at the moment, 2nd in GTC, but as a main championship regular, picking up the, I think, 15 points for registered championship starters in this one. So he will add to his tally and cement his GTC class championship group lead. There's the number 9 car again, which is Alex Stevenson, who will hand over to James Kellett. James Webb in 7th place. John Dillon up ahead of them now, so Dillon starting to pull away. Alex Stevenson passed the orange strip on the GTO. You can see the stun strip on the windscreen, and I think coming under a little bit of pressure there was the number 9 from, indeed it was, a change for 2nd position in class, and it looks like Alex is losing a little bit of ground. We've got Richard Chamberlain coming through as well in 8th place, and that was Simon Orange who made the pass. So Simon Orange going up in 2nd position, the black and orange Ginetta about to be passed by Richard Chamberlain, puts the 935 neatly through on the inside line, and he's an impressive bit of kit. And a lot of people say, well, yep, had lots of wins because of the kit, but that kit has to be maintained. It has to be driven, as it always is, superbly by Richard Chamberlain. And Super job by the team to even get that out, encountering problems and doing a fair amount of travel to go through. There is Jim Geddy, GTC leader, and Jim up ahead of John Dillon at the moment. Now, although John won't be concerned about Jim taking or not taking championship points away from him, he would dearly like to have a little bit of a race with him. It's the next target for Richard Chamberlain, the Porsche 935, is James Webb. But let's have a look at the race leader. Here he is. We just had a fastest first sector of the race, fastest outright first sector for John Seal, who has gone up into second place. John Seal with Marcus Clutton, of course, formidable driver combination, those two. Richard Neary still quickest. Now, John Seal's fastest sector one, a 19.204, which compares to a 19.5 to Richard Neary. So John Seal has really got that car running well. His last lap was a 130.5, Neary a 130.4, so he's not closing in at the moment. As we watch Seamus Jennings in fourth position, and then the Barrow BMW, Tom Barrow leading GTB at the moment, having a little bit of a lonely time of it. His next, his chaser, championship regular, Warren Gilbert, he'll be handing over to Jensen Lunn a little bit later on, but at the moment it looks like double bubble for the BMW. Tom finishing first in class and in 7th position in GTB in race number 1. Clock ticking down. A reminder that the pit stop's not before 24 minutes, which is half distance. It means the pro drivers generally get a slightly smaller bite of the cherry in this, which is fair enough. 29 minutes remaining, so we'll be looking for it to get down to 25 minutes remaining on the clock for the pit lane to open. Geddy has a look at the inside line of the 34 car. That's the GTA class leader, Callum Jenkins. Jenkins hasn't got anybody really for company at the moment. 32 car immediately ahead is the GTH machine of Ron Johnson. He's running in 13th, Jenkins 14th, but separate classes. And that's the best I think that Callum Jenkins can hope for a race, as Jim Geddy pops the 77 Lamborghini down the inside of the Toyota, pops in another lap. Jim's still leading GTC and well on his way. Jim, of course, former champion in GT Cup, 2014 champion when he won it with United Autosports. They didn't win the team championship that year. That was won by In2 Racing. So it's not always the winning driver who would take the team championship, and we've seen that happening in several classes over the years now, as Webb now in 8th position, just pops another lap on Callum Jenkins. There'll be some fettling to do on the Webb Lamborghini over the course of the night. Richard Chamberlain passing him a lap or so ago to move up into 7th place now from the back of the grid. Reigning champion, car of Steve Ruston, who started this one. John Whitehouse is the man who will take over in the McLaren, but the sleek lines of that car, all of the machinery you see, absolutely superbly presented now, and a challenge on Richard Chamberlain goes through on the inside line of John Dillon. Ron Johnson's going to try and unlap himself from the 61 car as well and nip through on the inside line, and I think that may have unsettled John Dillon a little bit, because closing in now is James Webb. So GTC second position battle going on between Dillon and Webb. Those two very close now, and we'll see whether the 61 car can hold off James Webb. I was thinking he was dropping back, but in reality it was only because Richard Chamberlain had gone past in the 935. John Seal running well in second, goes past Tom Barrow in the BMW. The gap, Richard Neary to John Seal, 5.135 seconds. And it is still Richard Neary with the fastest lap. He's going to have a change round tomorrow. He's going to do the second stint in the 50-minute race, the two-driver race tomorrow. his son Sam will get first dibs on the sprint race and the first part of the endurance race. I thought John Dillon was going to... He seems to have recovered now, John Dillon. The shot we were looking at just now, still fending off James Webb. It is Richard Neary. We are around about a minute away from the pit stop window being open here at half distance in this 50-minute race. How quickly is Richard Neary going to come in? And the answer is he's coming in straight away. Now, I thought we were a minute away because on the clock it is showing us 25 minutes 41. That he is in. Now remember, the minimum pit stop time is 60 seconds. There is a pass-through time allowance of 15 seconds plus success seconds as well. And for me, great news that John Seal comes in at the same time. So Richard Neary about to hand over to Sam Neary, John Seal about to hand over to Marcus Clutton. Marcus having had a busy weekend, but I would say Marcus, probably more than anybody else in the field, will know the state of the track out there better than anybody, having raced in Radical Challenge. As James Webb goes through, actually keeping up at the minute with John Dillon, these two second and third in GTC. And are we going to see an early pit stop? The earlier the pit stop, of course, it means the longer the second driver or pro driver will get. Sam Randon will take over the Porsche. So the championship leading Porsche coming in. Ben Claydon about to hand over to Sam Randon. Some of the drivers, of course, different sizes, so there is sometimes work to do in terms of the pedals or the seat. And this is on board with the championship leading car. Ben Claydon about to hand over to Sam Randon. A little bit of experimental footage for you there that we grabbed, and great to get the chance to see that. So thanks to our production team for affording us that access of the lead car. And talking of the lead car, here comes Sam Neary, who set pole position time, is out, and he's the first driver to rejoin the track. This is very good news for the Mercedes. So it's our first look on screen at Sam Neary at the wheel, a driver who I'm delighted to have met through the Ginetta Scholarship, the Ginetta Junior Scholarship, 2 or 3 years ago now. I can't remember which year it was. As we go back on with the championship leader, Sam Randon, about to head away in the Team Hard car. Into pit lane comes the man now second in the race, with the pit stops having started. Seamus Jennings about to hand over to Greg Caton. The Top Cats Mantis is back out as well. We've still got the Ruston Whitehouse car out in the mix as well. Here comes Jim Geddy out onto the track as well. Glyn Geddy, I beg your pardon. It's Glyn taking over from Jim now. And the championship leading Porsche with Sam Randon now at the wheel will head out, and it seems like most of the drivers are doing early stops. So Sam Randon, local man, lives in Derbyshire, 28 years of age this year, multiple karting champion, MRK cadet champion as far back as 2008. He was running Clio Cup, he's running the Ginetta Super Cup, was runner-up in the Clio Cup Series in the road class and third in the race car class in 2016. Did a couple of rounds in Clio Cup, qualified on pole position. I think it was Croft. It really made a major impact into the Renault UK Clio Cup, did Sam Randon, and really good to get the chance to commentate on his racing again, and indeed that of Sam Neary, who I go back to talking about, met on the Ginetta Scholarship a couple of years ago, and he was there with his dad, as most of them are when they come along, and haven't had the chance to commentate on his racing since then. He's been racing in the British GT Championship. Met him again today, and of course, you probably know what I'm going to say. When I met him at the Ginetta Junior Championship, he was a little bit shorter than me, and now he towers above me. And what a great lad as well. I had a super chat with him in the garages, and loves his racing. Obviously, works hard in the family business as well. And what a nice thing for Sam Neary to be able to do, to come out and race with his dad. So the Matt Manderson Mike Brown car will lead, hasn't had his pit stop yet, and there is the race leader. So at the moment we've got Matt Manderson leading, Richard Chamberlain second, James Webb third, Greg Caton fourth, having taken over from Seamus Jennings, then Sam Neary fifth place, having taken over from his dad. A little bit of change going on there, and then John Seal has emerged from the pit stops I beg your pardon, Marcus Clutton has emerged from the pit stops down in 6th place. So work to do. Once we've had a 10 minutes or so pit window, then we will know exactly what is to come. Now there is the number 9 car. Do we have James Kellett at the wheel yet? I think probably not. James, another young driver whom I made acquaintance with in Ginetta Junior Racing, and now working with SimTrack, the simulation company in Leeds, in Garforth, just outside Leeds actually, in the Ginetta facility itself, and that's where he met Alex Stevenson, who was giving him some coaching on the SimTrack sim. Some of these drivers doing that now, as we look at the 911 car. Will Tregurtha taking that one over. I think David Franklin's still at the wheel at the moment, so Will Tregurtha will get his shout. Another driver, Will Tregurtha, met through Ginetta Junior Racing, and was somewhat surprised to learn that I'd worked in the same area of local media with his dad Craig many years ago. So we caught up when he was in Ginetta Junior on 25 years worth of missed sporting reporting down in Crawley in West Sussex, which was where we were both based at the time. And just trying to think whether we had some bad news in Crawley this week with Alan Minter passing away. I was trying to think whether Alan Minter actually raced a car. I know Barry McGuigan raced it and rolled a couple of cars. Maybe Alan Minter did. Anyway, I'm going off subject a bit. Let's get back on track. And it's Matt Manderson still leading in the Aston Martin GT3, with James Webb in 2nd. So it's GT3 leading GTC. GT3 in 3rd place with Sam Neary, 2nd in class, 3rd on the road at the moment. But the Aston Martin here, the Matt Manderson Aston Martin, still needs to pit. The maximum time for pit stops is 95 seconds. Get a 20-second success seconds added on if you're a new driver to the championship, and of course if you were a race winner. So John Seal, who won at Silverstone, gets the full 95 seconds, or had the full 95 seconds. We watched the 2nd position car, Lamborghini Huracan of James Webb. Some of the other cars getting out at 75 seconds. So Richard Chamberlain, who we haven't seen racing this year up to now, as the 2nd place car. James Webb, the Lamborghini Huracan, comes into pit lane. Now, he doesn't hand over to anybody. He's the lone driver in the car. So he's basically got to sit it out. And that's why you have the time where you actually have to stop for a set period of time. If you can get the changeover done relatively quickly, as Sam Neary now, when he crosses the line, should take 2nd position away from James Webb. Let's see. As he crosses the line now, Webb is in pit lane, Neary goes through. Now, did he lose a lap in the changeover? They're around about the same height, Richard and James Neary. Greg Caton putting a little bit of pressure on Dave Scaramanga. I'm not sure if Dave Scaramanga's been in. Will Powell is the pro driver for the Ginetta. Such a prolific company. Sad that they are pulling out of Le Mans for this year, but very understandable why. But do such an amazing job with their ladder, starting with the GRDC Championship, or the Ginetta Juniors, moving up through Ginetta Challenge into Super Cup, and then onwards to through the likes of British GT, GT Cup. So many Ginettas racing here, and great company. Lawrence Tomlinson, a super guy to chat to, and so passionate about his racing. If you took Ginetta out of the equation in many championships, there'd be some holes there for sure. So Stevenson Kellett car in the mix, climbing up the order now. So I think the change done. Simon Orange will hand over to Josh Jackson. So perhaps time to have a wee look at who's where, because we've got 16 minutes left on the clock. Are we going to see a pass here? And that is, I think, James Kellett. That really does look like Ginetta Junior style from James Kellett, who dived down the inside line. Now the question is, that was for 2nd in class. Is Callum Jenkins still leading? I think Harry Yardley-Rose leading now in GTA in the 34 car. So Team Hard have effected a good one, but Orange is coming back on the inside line here of James Kellett. Kellett on the outside line. and he's got the line as they come down into Redgate, but Simon Orange, the former Mazda racer, side by side with him. This is a great bit of racing between the two Ginettas, and back through goes James Kellett, looking for P2 here, but he's not being given an early time. That's Josh Jackson, isn't it, rather than Orange, because they've done the pit stop. So my apologies. Nothing on the timing screen to indicate. I probably need to do a little tick box for myself for tomorrow's race, just so I know who's been in the pits. But Josh Jackson had a great deal of pleasure commentating for a few seasons on Mazda MX-5s, the Mark 1 Mazdas, and Josh Jackson, one of the top drivers in that very fiercely competitive production sports car championship. But it is James Kellett who goes through and grabs second position in class. Down behind them is now Tom Ingram, touring car racer. He's keeping this quiet, Tom Ingram. For one thing, he hasn't brought any pasties up to the television unit for us this weekend, and probably because he hasn't got the pasty company mentioned on the side of the car. And secondly, I guess a low-profile outing for him. The only thing that was on social media was about his dog's birthday, but well, happy birthday, dog. And Tingram enjoying his racing here. So now we've got, I'm just trying to work out whether I've seen Tom Ingram racing with James Kellett before, but I probably haven't. They were in Ginetta Juniors at different times. That's going through is Greg Caton. Greg running in, getting very, very close indeed there. Greg Caton running in fourth position. It's Sam Neary, the race leader. Marcus Clutton, P2 at the moment in the Lamborghini. The gap is 8 seconds between first and second place on the road. The two GT3 cars, the third GT3 machine, now with Mike Brown at the wheel, is in third place. Fourth position is the Porsche that we just saw of Greg Caton, and he's fourth in GT3 as well. GTC led by Glyn Geddy now. GTO lone racer is Richard Chamberlain, he's in sixth position, and then GTB still led by Tom Barrow in the BMW, he's eighth position outright. GTH led by John Whitehouse, now having taken over from Steve Ruston. There is Marcus Clutton, who is running in second position overall at the moment, and has just done the fastest lap of the race. Marcus Clutton, 1:27.029. I told you John Seals no slouch either. Really good strong driver pairing, as we see now Sam Neary out front. The gap has come down to 6.314 seconds. Are we going to, with 13 minutes on the clock, is that enough time to see the Lamborghini Huracan close down on the Mercedes? We really do have a grandstand finish in the offing here, and it's the ABBA Commercials car that is out front at the moment. Richard Neary doing a good first stint, but let's have a quick look back. Race leader goes through shot now, and as they come along the straight, we'll start to see, there is the green Lamborghini. That is a big gap to make up in 13 minutes. We'll see whether Marcus Clutton can do it. He's got to deal with traffic all the way through this one. Through goes the 13 car with James Webb, second position in GTC. Did I get my run through of the class leaders complete? I think I did, and I can also tell you now that the GTA leader is James Kellett. So pro driver James Kellett has come through into the GTA lead, where I thought he was in P2 earlier on, but has actually got the class lead. But this is Sam Neary, works his way through. Took a year off racing. Did the was telling me that after he did the Ginetta Scholarship, did the Winter Series. Can't remember where that was. Probably Brands Hatch. As we watch Marcus Clutton. Now Marcus is 31 years of age. GT4 champion in 2011 when he was just 22 years of age. British GT Supersport champion in 2009. Youngest ever driver in the Porsche Club Championship. Great to be working with them last week when he was 16 years of age. And 3 wins in Radical Challenge last year. Leads the championship this year as well. I think he's probably held on to the lead as well today. So I'll check up on that for you overnight. So fascinating, going back to Sam Neary. As we switch away from Sam, Sam did actually take time off from racing to do his GCSEs, which is extremely commendable, and it hasn't hurt his racing career at all, as Will Tregurtha is about to get stuck in to the championship leading Porsche. So we'll see whether Will can do it. What is the gap now? The gap is down to 5 seconds. It was 8 last time we looked, and again Marcus Clutton posts another race fastest lap, 1:27.029. And Sam Neary, who has been quickest, this car's been quickest all weekend, suddenly finds itself with Marcus Clutton in pursuit and 5.4 seconds down the road. This is exactly what Butte Motorsport and the GT Cup Championship would like from their racing, with the way that the pit stops work, the faster driver coming in, maybe giving chase in the second half of the race and giving us a nail-biting end to it. Here comes the lead car across the line again. Webb's a lap down. That's the green Lamborghini. So there he is. The green Lamborghini is Marcus Clutton. Beg your pardon, getting muddled up with the blue car, and the gap now down to 3.9 seconds between Neary and Clutton. And there is going to be no stopping. And I said when there was 13 minutes to go that gap looked absolutely huge, but now we've got 10 minutes on the clock and 3.9 seconds. That lead is disappearing very, very quickly indeed, and maybe a little bit of frustration showing there from Sam Neary, who runs a little bit wide. Remember, still very much a youngster and learning his trade. And remember, it's the 31-year-old chasing the teenager here, just to put things in perspective. But closing up big time he is at the minute, with the Russ Lindsay Patrick Collins car passed, keeps out of the way as they go through the Fogarty S's for the 26th time here at Donington Park. So here is the Mercedes. It's been out front not all weekend, but most of the weekend. We saw the Anderson Mike Brown Aston Martin GT3 lead for part of this race. Now, what's the gap going to come down to? They are heading through Goddard's, rejoin the national circuit and come across the line. 3.9 seconds becomes 1.3, so the gap is coming down. Dave Scaramanga keeps to the outside line at Redgate in his Ginetta. Scaramanga running in third place in GTH, so he's on the podium for GTH, which is good stuff for Dave. Through on the inside line goes Marcus Clutton, down through the Craner curves, trying to get the gap down even more, still with the fastest lap of 1:27.0. The Neary best lap, 1:28.511. But this the battle for the lead, this 50-minute race, and the Lamborghini chasing hard. The BMW, the next target here. Sam Neary dives to the inside line again, uses a fair bit of the curbs there. And Marcus Clutton probably realises that he's got time. He sounded a bit croaky when I spoke to him earlier on, and maybe not in full health at the minute. He said there had been a little bit of a bug going around the family, and we had some very non-PC banter as well with John Seal and Richard Neary. Richard Neary incidentally having a good chat with them as well. Very good camaraderie throughout the GT Cup Championship paddock, and now it is very much a battle for the lead with 8 minutes 10 on the clock, and surely just a matter of time before Marcus Clutton will make the move. He won't do anything rash. I think he knows that he's got time to do this. This, remember, for the race lead, but not the regular championship contenders lead. He doesn't have to pass the car in front to get the championship points, but he will want to take the win on the road. The gap now 0.6 of a second between P1 and P2, and Sam Neary will see the green Lamborghini right in his mirrors. When will he pick the moment to make the move? This is the question. It won't be the old hairpin. It'll start to maybe reel in here as we go through Schwantz, the left-hand curve. Long left-hander into the right-hander at McLean's then, as you can see, climbing uphill in towards Coppice Corner. It might be Starkey Straight where he makes the move. Neary getting defensive. We're allowed one weave, remember, which is pretty much what he's done through the double apex Coppice. A lot tighter there. This could be a good run here. Let's see whether Marcus Clutton has got the momentum, and we'll have a look. On the inside or the outside, goes to the outside line as they come to Fogarty's, and the race leader Sam Neary playing this one well at the moment. Clutton is too far back to have a lunge as they come down into the braking area on the Melbourne hairpin, and not too defensive there, you've got to say. This is good stuff from the youngster driving the Mercedes at the moment, soaking up a lot of pressure here from the vastly more experienced Marcus Clutton, and this is a fascinating battle to watch, youth versus experience. No doubt that Sam Neary is a very, very quick youngster, and he still holds the lead. But here comes Clutton along the Wheatcroft straight.
They're both hugging the inside line now. Clutton goes for the dive around the outside. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? No, he can't quite do it. Not enough grip on the burn up round the outside. And will maybe go for the cutback as they come down through Hollywood and into the Craner curves. This will be a pass if we can see it in GT racing. There's around about a car's length between them at the moment. No, we're not going to see a pass here. Well, Marcus Clutton knows that he's got to bring the car home with only one car technically in the regular championship order. Of course, in GT3 knows that if he makes a rash move, it will wipe out a point. Every single race counts. There are no drop scores in this slightly truncated championship this year. And Clutton knows he's on for maximum points at the moment anyway, but I know John Seal will be willing him on to try and take the win. So that's the Mercedes still there. A little bit of traffic coming up. Got the orange Jackson, Josh Jackson at the wheel of the Ginetta is coming up as well. Jackson running second in class at the moment, down past Tom Ingram. Great driving from Tom Ingram, knows what he's doing here. And the Simon Orange car passed as well. Josh Jackson is passed now, and here is the move that is going to grab the lead. The Hurricane going on the outside line, doesn't quite work, goes deep. He might be able to get some momentum as they come out of Goddard's and Marcus Clutton. And we've seen this before. We saw several of the cars having some great dices in the first race, and this is another one here. Previously it was the Alex Toth-Jones car dicing it out with Ron Johnson in race number 1. That was probably one of the highlights of race 1 for me. But this, without doubt, is a superb battle, and Marcus Clutton looking everywhere without being overly aggressive and without doing anything silly at the moment to try and get past the Mercedes. He wants the win, and the clock is ticking down. Now, if you'd have told me with 10 minutes to go that they would still be Mercedes ahead of Lamborghini, I probably wouldn't have believed you, but he's hung on and done a superb job. They're through and past the 72 Aston Martin of Chris Murphy. I have to keep my eyes away from the timing clock here because we might miss the pass for the lead, which happens at Coppice. There was a gap there. Sam Neary leaves a gap, but he's got the inside line as they come now down in towards Fogartis. He's going to reclaim the lead on the brakes, and he does. Superb. I challenge you to find better GT racing than this. This is a superb battle for the lead, and Sam Neary is not giving up. But here comes Clutton again, outside line, deep into the Melbourne hairpin. And of course the driver of the Mercedes is going to be looking ahead. Clutton's going to have a look on the outside line as they come through into Goddard's. Is he going to be able to get the job done? He's going to do it cleanly, goes deep again. And the number 8 Mercedes of Sam Neary survives again. 3 minutes 29 on the clock. They're coming up now on the GTA leader. James Kellett took over from Alex Stevenson, and he's got it. Here comes Clutton again. High, wide and handsome, to quote Brian Jones in his days as commentator at Brands Hatch. But here it's not Paddock Hill Bend, it's Redgate at Donington Circuit. This is a super race between these two. Marcus Clutton piling the pressure on everywhere he can. They're having to deal with the GTA cars, the GTB cars, and whole lots of traffic, as well as battling with each other. And you won't see a better motor race anywhere else. This is real accomplished stuff from these two so far. So it's the Mercedes still there. Sam Neary, Marcus Clutton is next up. Looks all over the back. Are we going to see a gap again? I think Neary here, when he gets to the second apex, just runs a little bit wide. Marcus Clutton not quite close enough to make enough of that. Comes out of the slipstream, goes to the outside line. If we were running the national circuit, that would be the inside line into Roberts, but it isn't. It's the outside line as they go into the Fogarty S's, where we go off to the left and then onto the Melbourne Loop. Super stuff from the two green machines here. Here comes the Lambo again, right the way around the outside, deep into the hairpin, still can't do it. And it's the ABBA Commercials car that's still there. Clutton is wringing the neck of the Lamborghini around the outside line and may well have got the job done now. He's got his nose in front, but he's wide again as they go into Goddard's, and Sam Neary is through. But here comes Clutton looking up the inside line again. This is absolutely magnificent racing between the pair. 1 minute 57 on the clock. Clutton again to the outside line as they come down the Wheatcross Straight and into Redgate. Is he going to get the cut back as they go down into Hollywood? Neary running a little bit wide. This could be the change for the lead. And Marcus Clutton sees the gap. He's got the momentum and grabs the lead with 1 minute 38 on the clock. But look at Sam Neary still fighting it out on the outside line. And that surely is game over for Neary. He's having another run. He's got the inside line as they come up to Schwantz. But it might be momentum on the outside for Clutton as they head into McLean's. And I think Clutton has finally managed to pull that off. But Neary is still in the mix as well. Here they come out of McLean's. And surely that will be it now for Marcus Clutton, who's got into the lead. But what a dogged defence from the number 8 Mercedes of Sam Neary. Lap after lap of defence. Great attacking from Marcus Clutton. Superb racing. I can't tell you when I've enjoyed such a race as that for many, many a month. Absolutely superb stuff. And Marcus Clutton are very hard. Who said there's no overtaking in GT racing? Well, Butte Motorsport and the GT Cup Championship are delivering it in shed loads, barrow loads actually. Barrow BMW. Here we go though. Here is the race leader with 39 seconds on the clock. We're going to squeeze, I think, another lap out of it. Marcus Clutton is the race leader, and this will show us his first lap led in this race. You can see immediately behind them the leader of GTC. Let's not forget the other class leaders in this one. It's Glyn Geddy, who took over from his dad Jim at the halfway point of the race. Finds himself a lap down, but still leading class. Has a little bumpy moment there onto the dirt and over the curbs, down through the Craner curves for the last time. The clock, 5 seconds on the clock now. Marcus, what a superb race we've had. You know, not just from Marcus, John Seal set this up for him in the first part of the race, and that is absolutely key to two-driver races. Making a pass now, going past the championship leader, Sam Randon, third position at the moment in GTB. Got the Jensen Lund, Marcus ahead of him. Tom Barrow still there at the moment in the lead of GTB, and appropriately, the Ruston Whitehouse car is there as well. That's leading GTH as well. They're on for yet another class win. The reigning champions in the McLaren 570. There is Tom Barrow, the number 20 BMW 150. The battle still on for the lead though as they work their way through the traffic. And Marcus Clutton under massive pressure again from Sam Neary as they climb up towards Goddard's once again. Slightly downhill now into Goddard's. It's that little brow that you get as they come out of the final corner. It is going to be Marcus Clutton who will take the checkered flag and win our second race of the weekend here at Donington. A superb race. Congratulations to John Seal and Marcus Clutton, and also massive congratulations to Richard and Sam Neary on a super drive in the Mercedes. What fantastic entertainment, and that's why we have the invitation drivers coming in, because they can really add something to the mix and take nothing away from the regular drivers, but it is one of the regulars, the regular pairings, that takes the outright win here. So we've still got other places to settle. Glyn Geddy leading GTC, Tom Barrow leading GTB, GTH led by the Ruston Whitehouse McLaren, Alex Stevenson, James Kellett leading GTA, Richard Chamberlain still going in the 935 but dropped down to 17th position. Here is the number 20 car. Tom Barrow is going to win GTB. There he is taking the checkered flag, taking 7th position overall. I think I've caught up with all of the class winners who should now have taken the checkered flag, and we'll give you a rundown of the top 20 on this slowing down lap. And well, that was 50 golden minutes for me of GT racing, and we've got more of the same tomorrow, hopefully in the sprint race, and I'm sure that the way things will unfold, the way this championship is run, what a race that was. One of my favourite races of the season so far in any championship, including, you know, cut and thrust racing. You cannot ask for better motor racing than that. But there is our winner, Marcus Clutton, paired up with John Seal, who did the first stint of the weekend. And so it was a GT3 1, 2, 3, 4. The Seal, Clutton, Lamborghini Huracan taking the win from the Neary Mercedes, then the Jennings Cape and Porsche. Matt Manderson and Mike Brown in 4th. Didn't get to talk a lot about them, unfortunately, in the later stages of the race, but 4th position overall and in GT3. GTC win going to Jim and Glyn
Geddy, and then second in GTC going to the Lamborghini Huracan of James Webb, who saw a lot of in the early stages of the race. In 7th position was Tom Barrow in the BMW, up ahead of Warren Gilbert and Jensen Lunn in the Marcus Mantis. 9th place going to the defending champions John Whitehouse and Steve Rustin in the McLaren 570 GT4, winning the GTH class. Ben Claydon and Sam Randon were 10th and 3rd in GTB in their Porsche 997. 11th going to Alex Stevenson and James Kellett. Kellett doing the topping up on the great work done by Alex Stevenson in the early stages of the race. First position in GTA in 11th place. 12th position going to Ron Johnson and Tom Ingram. Second position in GTH. Second position in GTA was 67. Josh Jackson and Simon Orange. 14th, third in GTH was Dave Scaramanga and Alex Powell. They were followed in 15th position by the driver pairing that completed the podium in GTA, Russ Lindsay and Patrick Collins. 4th in GTB, 16th overall was David Franklin with Will Tregurtha, and then Richard Chamberlain, I think Gremlins in the later stages of the race in his 935, finishing as GTO winner, 17th place, ahead of Callum Jenkins and Harry Yardley Rose, followed by Chris Murphy in 19th place, and the top 20 completed by John Dillon and Phil Quaife. So that's a run through of the results of what was a magnificent race here at Donington Park. Superb race from the GT Cup Championship, and everybody rightly now getting a little bit of a breather. I suspect there'll be a fair amount of work to do over the course of the night. We saw certainly a few issues between the sprint race and the two driver race here earlier on today, but there's a message we can echo as well. Thank you for visiting Donington, but thank you for visiting our live stream today. I hope if you didn't enjoy the race, then I think you probably need to go and get your pulse checked. But more of the same for you tomorrow from Donington Park with another double header from the Peak Motorsport GT Cup Championship. We'll see whether we get different winners, but 2 different winners outright today here at Donington. And what better way to get your motor racing fix if you can't quite join us. Two races tomorrow. First one starting around about 12 noon. So thanks ever so much for your company on live stream today. From all of us on the team here at Race TV, a big thank you to you for joining us. Have a great evening, and we'll see you around about noon tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.